Rhoda Sarah chicken.
Hey everybody, it's Tuesday, October the 26th, 2020, and this is the Fourth and Wrong Podcast. I'm your host, RJ, and joining me as always is Keith. Say hi, Keith.
Hi, Keith.
So, where are we at this week? Are we in, are we back in the cheering side? Your game was actually interesting, my game less so, I feel like. My game was interesting for bad reasons.
Yeah. I mean, I can confidently say I'm not as upset as I was last week.
Well, that's okay. That's good.
And we won the football game, so that's good.
Hey, the Browns aren't a 6-point team.
They're not a 6-point team.
For those of you playing the home game, drink.
All over it, baby. Yeah. I guess we'll just jump right into the Browns.
Yeah, do it.
Since it's there, just staring at me.
Watching me.
So first thing I'd like to say is Odell Beckham's MRI came back.
Yeah,
it's an ACL tear.
Pour one out.
So pour one out for the homie. He's going to be out for the season.
Don't actually pour it. There's a lot of electronic equipment in this room.
Not like he was doing much anyways.
There's a stat that I saw, so there's an argument to be made that he's already been as productive this season as he was last year, at least as far as scoring goes.
Yeah, I was being facetious because today and yesterday I went on a warpath on social media of like unfollowing like all the various Browns groups and shit that I was a member of, because like.
Did you call Baker Mayfield a bitch again?
No. Oh, I can't. Not after this week, and we'll get into that.
Probably a bad week for it.
I guess it takes winning for Browns fans to become one of the like worst fan bases I had ever like been a part of. Because now it's like, so they were having so we'll preface this with some discussion about the game. So at the beginning of the game, literally first pass, Baker threw a pick. Sucks. It was like, man, that's 2 weeks in a row, first passing attempt. Throws a pick. And then the next drive proceeded to go like 0-5 or something like that. And then after he started the game throwing an interception and going 0-5.
And that was about like where I started being like, because I think that's where Odell got hurt.
Yeah. The second drive was when Odell got hurt.
And I looked up, I was like, I sent you a message, I was like...
Or the first drive was when Odell got hurt. It was the pick. It was super early.
Yeah, I was like, Keith, I think you've got a guard and Odell down at the same time.
Yeah, it was J.C. Treader. It was our center. He actually came back, so he was only out for that play or whatever. He just got shaken up. So...
But lost Odell early, 0-5 to start with a pick.
Yeah. Lost Odell early, 0-5, lost with an interception, and then Baker Mayfield just went, fuck this, and went 22 for 23 for the rest of the game.
Yeah, he just said, I'm going to be the best quarterback I can possibly be.
That one incompletion was when they timed the ball. It was a spike.
Yeah. So 21 in a row, spike, and then had another completion.
Yeah. 5 touchdowns, 3 of which were in the fourth quarter. Kareem Hunt averaged 4 yards a carry. Also had a receiving touchdown. Tight ends got involved. Njoku got a touchdown. Harrison Bryant, our rookie tight end, got 2. Rashad Higgins had 110 yards receiving.
Wait a second. You guys have tight ends? We'll get to that.
Okay. Yeah, Rashad Higgins got 110 yards receiving, which was his career high. It was Donovan Peoples-Jones, who quickly had to come in rotationally because of Rodissery, because Odell got hurt. He got us a game-winning touchdown on like one of the scariest fucking back shoulder passes I've ever seen in my life. It turned into a fucking slugfest. And it was probably, even with it being the Bengals, it was one of the hardest games for me to watch because, like, at least, okay, when Baltimore got ahead early and beat the shit out of us, I mean, I stopped watching at halftime. I knew what was going on. Mm-hmm. When Pittsburgh got ahead of us early and beat the shit out of us, I stopped watching around halftime because I knew what was going on. That made me physically ill to watch those games. This game, even though we got behind early, when it was tied at the half and both fucking teams were at each other's nuts, I was like, oh my God, is the Battle for Ohio rematch going to turn into a fucking shootout? And then the teams combined for 71 points.
So it wasn't tied at the half, it was tied just after the half.
Or just after the half, yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Because it was 17-10 at the half, I think.
Yes, yeah.
And then both teams combined for 71 points. It was a really fun game to watch. Especially with Baker Mayfield after 2 abysmal showings, pretty much, aside from those first 2 drives, throwing a perfect game. And I don't think it was enough to silence the critics, but that's why, I mean, we've had this discussion about week-to-week media all the time. Context is important. Mm. Yeah, he had bad games against some of the best defenses in the entire football league. So, it is what it is. But I started to notice... So, a bunch of Browns fans were calling Baker Mayfield's performance, quote-unquote, not good enough.
Okay. I don't know how.
With our running game the way it is, Baker Mayfield shouldered that offense.
Yeah, I mean, Baker arguably threw a better game than Josh has had all season.
Yeah, it wasn't one of those things where, like, fucking...
Now, granted, he had a pick, and I think Josh has thrown a game against Miami. It was 4 touchdowns with no interceptions, but...
Yeah. It's...
Oh, just shy of 300 yards, like just shy of 300 yards, 5 touchdowns and a pick. That's, I mean, I'll take that every. If you're like, I'll give this to you every week, I'll take that.
Yeah, and that's what I've said before, and we've had this conversation. Is like if Mayfield goes out and throws a pick every game or every other game, I'm not gonna hate on him too much as long as the performance around that interception is at least good. You know, and this was remarkable. You know, you take away those first 2 drives, and he had literally the best quarterback performance in the history of the NFL.
Yeah, and again, if you're like every 5th touchdown, you're definitely going to throw an interception. I'll take that too.
Yeah, I'm kind of fine with that. You know, a fucking 5-to-1 interception to touchdown ratio is not a bad thing.
It's pretty good.
And the thing that... So, there's... like, people are still... And this isn't... I'm not saying this game redeemed Baker. I'm not saying that. What I am saying, though, is this is once again point proven that Baker Mayfield is talented and is developing with his 4th setup of coaching staffs.
It's a ceiling game.
It's a ceiling game, and this is... We just need to start expecting this consistently out of Baker Mayfield, especially with Nick Chubb being injured. Mm-hmm. But in no way do I look at this performance and just go, he's not the answer, it's not good enough. Any quarterback that can do this at least a few times a season and then have average to good games for the rest of the season, you're going to win football games. Because this is a game that could have easily gotten away with us because we're having a lot of issues stopping the pass game. We had to stay relevant because, I mean, once again, the Bengals could not run on us worth a fuck. That front 4 is still one of the best front 4s in the league. The rest of the defense is suspect. So Joe Burrow is back there dropping bombs. Mm. So we had to keep up pace. And when your quarterback throws for 5 touchdowns, I'd say that's pretty fucking good at keeping up pace.
So here's my question. Who else can the Browns put up 5 passing touchdowns against? Or is a 1-5-1 team just bad, but it showed that Baker could stick with it?
Well, here's the thing. Here's the reason why I'm more adamant about.
Because if you did this against the Ravens, then you're talking you can do it against anybody.
Well, I mean, we did last year. No big deal.
But what have you done for me lately?
Yeah. Well, I mean, we went 5-2. We've seen Baker be able to put up these performances against good teams before. With the identity shift that we had at the beginning of the season, I don't think it was expected of Baker. And then when it was expected of Baker, we were playing behind the 8 ball by significant margins. Both games that we've lost this year have been by multiple scores.
By 30 points, roughly.
Yeah, where it completely eliminated our ability to change up the offensive pattern. So, like I said, I'm not confident. This doesn't reinstill my confidence in Baker Mayfield or the Cleveland Browns this season, but it was a good performance against a division opponent that was playing up. Bengals were playing up, and the Bengals have been playing up every single week since week 1.
Well, if they're playing up every single week since week 1, are they actually playing up, or are they just maybe quietly decent and just losing games?
Well, that's kind of where my mind's at now. Is I think the Bengals started the season with a rookie quarterback that they had a very simple
No, finish your thought and then I'll throw a hypothetical at you.
Yeah, they had a rookie quarterback with minimal training camp, running a very simple offense, and they've been keeping the only game that they lost by a significant margin against was against the Ravens, and we lost that game too. So there's actually a line of people that have lost games to the Ravens this year. I think the Bengals are quietly better than what we all expected them to be, mostly because Joe Burrow looks so good. I'm not on the Joe Burrow as the next coming of Jesus train, but he's a rookie that is 3rd in the NFL for yards, and not given enough opportunity to take advantage of that because he's on his back for half the fucking game.
Okay, so with that statement in mind, here's my hypothetical. If Cincinnati was in the NFC East, what position would they be in?
Well, that largely depends on the schedule, but considering they tied with the Eagles, I think they'd be in that shit show with them.
I mean, what? Even at this point, they're a game out? Or a half game out?
Yeah, they're a game out. And really the only real team, and I say real with a grain of salt, the only real team they've played so far is the Ravens and maybe the Chargers and us twice.
I mean, I would say the Chargers are a real team. I would say the Browns are a real team.
Yeah. So I think they still have a lot to improve on. But
their offensive line, probably.
But mostly, a lot of that has to do with their offensive line and protecting Joe Burrow. Joe Burrow's going out there and balling out and literally doing everything he can to try to get this team a win. And I think it's falling back to the same thing that happens every single time the Bengals get a new piece. He plays for the fucking Bengals.
Yeah.
I'm not saying the football team is bad. The organization is bad, But he still went out there and he had a great game. And Joe Burrow's numbers, while they aren't going to jump out of the stat sheet for you, he's doing fine. I think the Bengals quietly are a better team. A lot of people are giving them credit for. The only major loss they've had this season is against a team that routinely blows out weaker competition, which was the Ravens. So,
I mean, even Joe Burrow against you guys had a pretty stellar game, 406 yards, 3 touchdowns, and a pick. I mean...
Yeah. And
he's moving it.
He's moving the ball, and they're creating opportunities. And his receivers are, helping him and stuff.
He's a rookie. He's a rookie doing this. Josh Allen didn't do this until this year.
Yeah, and even his first game against us, like, granted, his completion percentage was god-awful his first game against us, but that's, like, that was a little bit different scenario because we had Nick Chubb that was pounding the rock every fucking play. But he still put up 300 yards and 3 touchdowns. Like, the dude can go out and ball. I think he's a victim of his circumstance, and I think Cincinnati's quietly better than a lot of people give him credit for, and this was a game that we could have easily lost, just like it was the first time we played him. People need to... Like, the moment we started winning, and now there's expectation in the fan base, like, people need to slow down a little bit. You know, this team is still young. This team has a brand new coaching staff. We see a lot of ugliness going on in this team, especially on defense. It can't all be on Baker's shoulders, okay? If there's a quote unquote bad team, because that was the biggest thing, was like, well, it was a one score game against a team we should have beat. Well, A, we did beat them. B, the last time we played them, it was still only a 1-score game. And C, the defense isn't stopping them from scoring 34 points. So Baker had to go out there and put up 5 touchdowns for us to stay competitive.
Right.
That's not a Baker problem. That's a team problem, you know? Baker did his part. He got his almost 300 yards, 5 touchdowns, and almost a perfect game. Like, but the defense still let the Cincinnati Bengals put up 34 points. I'm tired of talking about Baker Mayfield. I want to talk about this secondary, and I want to talk about this, you know, the issues that we're having on defense. Okay? Because the key pieces of the defense are still going out there and performing. Denzel Ward's doing well. Myles Garrett is still leading the league in strip sacks and sacks.
That's a bad man.
Yeah, he's a bad man. The rest of the defensive line is not giving up chunk yardage in the gaps on the run plays. But that defense on a whole is allowing teams that people claim shouldn't be scoring to score. So what really is the problem? What really is the issue? Like I said, I don't think this game redeems Baker Mayfield in any way. But these games being close is not fucking Baker Mayfield's fault. You know, even the first game against Cincinnati, you know, everybody was so quiet about Baker the first 3 weeks because Nick Chubb was running for 160 yards. Okay? But now we're having to switch up that vibe a little bit. There's a little bit more of a microscope. He has a couple of bad games, and then he rebounds with this, and he's still not good enough. Well, let's talk about the side of the ball that allowed the other team to score 30 plus. Like, why isn't that a conversation point at this point?
I mean, clearly Baker should be playing safety or something.
He should. Like, it's obviously his fault because he's not playing on both sides of the ball. So, overall, though, so what?
I said Dion could do it.
Yeah. Overall, it was a really enjoyable game to watch, though. I like divisional games because they make me stressed.
I should have flipped over to your game, I'll be perfectly honest.
Yeah, but especially at halftime when both these teams really like cranked that shit up to 11, it was a really good, which was also conveniently the only half I was able to watch in its entirety. That shit got cranked up to 11. The game-ending touchdown, I almost shit myself because it was like literally this close to being picked. If Cincinnati's secondary player maybe turned around to track the ball a split second earlier, that might have been a pick. But it was still a well-placed ball for Donovan Peoples-Jones. Landry definitely opened up a little bit towards the end of the game. Higgins had a career game. And the one interception that Baker did throw, that was just it was a mixture of both sides. That was a really good play by the defense. He broke on that ball fucking hard. He just literally turned around and made a fucking play. The ball was a little bit more inside than I would have liked, and that set up the defense. The defender still had to make a good play on the ball, and he did. So there's just a lot of good things to watch in this game. It was a lot of exciting ball. Kareem Hunt is slowly but surely weaseling his way into becoming more of a feature in the offense because we're not having to lean on the passing game as much. But when Baker Mayfield was as hot as he was, of course Kareem Hunt's only going to get 18 touches in that game.
Right.
I think Kareem Hunt's just as capable of busting out 150 yards as Nick Chubb was. He's going to do it in a different way, and
a lot more bouncing to the outside.
Yeah, a lot more bouncing to the outside, making people miss in open space, even just scrimmage yards, being a threat in the passing game. And he got himself, a few receptions and a touchdown. So Kareem Hunt almost or did have 100 yards from scrimmage. He's a different kind of weapon. It's a different kind of offense. And I think not only did we have to establish our identity early with the rushing game, that identity got punched in the face. Nick Chubb got hurt, so now we're having to reestablish a different identity because we have different playmakers playing now with all the injuries that we've been dealing with. So I think entirely the Browns fandom in general just need to pump the brakes, man. Let's watch this thing evolve, okay? If anything, this showed that Baker's ceiling is still a ceiling that is very, very valuable to this team. We just got to get consistently into that.
This was one of those. This was why I was the number 1 overall draft pick games.
Yeah, and it's there.
Also, you said you were this close to shitting yourself. So I've got your next metal album title. It's Inches from Defecation. You can have that.
I'm gonna write that one down. Appreciate you. You're always looking out.
Yeah. Anything else to cover from the game, or was that about it? You got any fun stats? Again, I really should have paid closer attention to it, because goddamn, my game sucked.
Yeah. The Myles Garrett is continuing to be a fucking problem for offenses. He had 2 sacks, one including a strip sack. He's gotten at least 1 sack in every game this year.
Yeah.
And this was also Baker Mayfield tied the franchise record for most consecutive passing completions.
That makes sense.
And this was his career high in passing touchdowns.
Also makes sense.
And Myles Garrett is tied. He's on pace to either tie or break either the franchise or league record for most consecutive games with a sack. So, there's always good things to take away.
Baker threw for, roughly 20% of his rookie year's worth of touchdowns in a game, so that's okay. That's all right.
So who knows? We might be able to salvage a season with this somehow.
You'll probably still make the playoffs. There's enough slots this year. You got to keep that record up, but fucking the AFC North could put 3 teams in the playoffs this year.
Right.
You got to remember, Miami's still sitting at 300. So
that's true.
You got to lead on some other people.
That is true.
But speaking of my division, let's go over to my game.
Yeah.
Also known as the Tyler Bass Kickathon. Also known as Left Hash Bass.
Yeah. Mr. can't hit from the right, except for that one time he did.
Except for those 2 times that he did.
2 times he did.
This game was bad.
What a boring fucking game. Tell me about
it. Frank Gore looked good, averaging 5.5 yards a rush. There were some early runs there where he was getting 8, 9, 7, 8, 8, and it's Jesus Christ. This guy, it's the same shit.
Yep.
I'll have to find the stats for it though, but eventually we turned it around. We never got in the end zone once. We ended up winning 18-10. But so I believe in the second half we let up 4 total yards against the Jets, which is great. It shouldn't take us that long. It's the Jets.
Yeah.
Statistically, Josh Allen had a pretty good day. He went 30 for 43, so that's probably about 70% for 300 yards, but no touchdowns, and also no picks.
Well, if you aren't going to throw any touchdowns, at least don't throw any picks.
Yeah. If you cut Josh Allen out of our rushing game, which I guess you shouldn't because he's got fucking designed runs.
Yeah.
So
he was the rushing game.
So he's part of the rushing game. Josh Allen had 11 carries for 61 yards.
Mm-hmm.
Josh Allen had almost as many carries, as Zach Moss and Devin Singletary combined.
Yeah.
Because they only had 15 altogether.
So was the majority of Josh Allen's carries was that designed runs?
Yeah.
Okay, so when you have one of your running backs averaging 7 yards a carry, why are you calling so many designed runs? Because they were working?
Yeah,
you watched the game.
Probably. So. I don't know. They're not smart. Just fucking throw the ball more, man. You do that pretty good. Although John Brown's fucking hurt again, so
Nice.
Oh, and my comment earlier of you guys have tight ends is because we didn't have any fucking tight ends because COVID hit and it took out like our entire tight end room before the game. The only person who was like a starting caliber tight end was Tyler Croft because he was with his wife for the birth of their child when the positive tests came through. So he was like, wasn't there, not me.
Yep, those goes.
So, which is good because he was, 64 yards on 4 targets. So he actually did something for us. But yeah, man, this was a long, sloppy game. A lot of our same deficiencies showed up. I mean,
I noticed, I saw a highlight where the Josh Allen fumble monster made a return.
Yeah, well, kind of. I don't think he actually had a turnover. No, he did. He had one, but he had at least one more where like he hit the ground, landed on his elbow, and it popped out. So like he had a couple where he hit the ground and lost security of it.
Yeah.
But no, he got hit on a strip sack for that fumble. So it wasn't him running with it.
Gotcha.
But I don't know. Our defense stepped up late and played relatively well. Jerry Hughes got a hilarious interception like to end the game.
Yeah. Fucking y'all were bullying Sam Darnold, weren't you?
He didn't have a great day. I mean, he started off pretty well, but then kind of settled into, let's call it mediocrity.
Well, he also got hit 11 times and sacked 6.
Yeah.
So in his grill. All that shit we were talking about the pass rush last week. And they're just like, I'll show you against the worst team in the league. So that's kind of the thing is like this was a sloppy, ugly game against a bad team, and I really don't have a lot to say about it because I didn't have a lot of positives to take away from it. Like our running game still. I mean, Zach Moss put up decent yards, but I think he broke a couple big ones. Mm-hmm. And that's where the majority of that was. Does anybody check on Brashad Perryman? Is he alive?
Who?
Brashad Perryman, the guy Michael Hyde tried to murder.
Oh, I don't remember that. Did he try to murder him?
He knocked him unconscious and got flagged for unnecessary roughness, and it was a questionable call. Because he led with his shoulder, but he kind of launched, but they kind of saw the helmet to helmet, but it wasn't really there, but it was mostly just the launching thing. So it was targeting a defenseless receiver and literally knocked him unconscious. You text me about it.
Boy, that was a long game. I must have.
He checked out.
I'll go watch the highlights. Maybe I've got CT. I don't know. But yeah, it's just or I'm super depressed about it because this was just like, and I just like am blocking out the entire game because.
Sure.
Yeah, I'm glad we didn't lose to the Jets. We've now beaten them twice and don't have to accidentally lose to them sometime later in this year. So next up is the Patriots. So.
Because they look so good.
Yeah, we're looking ahead.
We got the Raiders next week, so we'll see.
Unless you've got any specific questions, Tyler Bass went, I think, 6 for 8 total.
Sounds about right.
Had a chance, set the franchise record for most field goals made in a game. Yeah, 6 for 8. With a long at 53. So, again, he's got that leg and he can boot it. But he's got to be on that left fucking hash because I saw some of those close ones. He missed a 35-yarder from the right and it just went whoop and cut like right across that motherfucker. You could see he was like, I got to compensate for this. And he did. Too much. I guess the only other note that I have for the fun fact, is Josh Allen has yet to lose 3 games in a row in his career.
Hey, there you go.
So
that's a positive takeaway.
Even in losing to Tennessee and Kansas City back to back, we got the Jets, and that streak continues. So
yeah. Well, even with these down games, though, I'm still not off the Josh Allen train.
Also, we walked away with W's in both of these, both of our games, and I still feel like they were kind of down games for both of us.
Yeah. Well, speak for yourself, buddy. We scored 37 points.
Certainly.
5 touchdowns to your 6 field goals
against maybe the second worst team in the league.
No. That's all in the NFC, baby. They have an entire division full of that shit.
That's fair. That's fair. But yeah, what I said after the game was like, yeah, we won. It didn't feel like a win.
Sure.
So we definitely. Now that we've played the Jets twice, we're definitely getting into the meat of our schedule.
Mm-hmm.
So, we had some of that, the last 2 weeks again against Tennessee and Kansas City, but, we finally have Big Brother to play, even though Big Brother's, been fucking throwing up in the bathroom for the last 4 weeks. It's time to face the hoodie and see what happens.
Right.
But speaking of the hoodie, let's just transition into that game because I want to talk about it real quick.
Can we?
The Jimmy Garoppolo fucking dick slapping game.
Yeah, Jimmy G seems like he's mad about something.
Didn't throw a lot of touchdowns about it, but.
Mm-hmm. But that's kind of the MO for San Francisco at this point. They are a product of efficiency.
Yeah.
And they had a couple of Jimmy G had a couple of picks, and one of them was pretty ugly. But overall, he was 20 for 25, decent yardage, and then fucking that running game, man, they just bullied New England, and New England just couldn't fucking put anything together, and it was beautiful to watch. It was amazing. I love watching Bill Belichick suffer.
Yeah, I did not catch any of the game, but you were like, New England just got the shit slapped out of them.
They got their PP slapped.
And I looked at the score and I said, yeah, 33-6 definitely qualifies.
Oh, yeah. It was so bad that Cam Newton said in an interview that he is acknowledging the fact that his starting job might be in jeopardy because of the poor showing that the Patriots have been giving over the past couple of weeks.
Yeah, Belichick has already cleared that up, though, and said that Cam Newton will be starting next week against the Bills.
Oh, sure. Yeah. I know what Billy said, but I'm just saying Cam Newton, who is arguably one of the more outspoken about his positions of leadership on football teams, is acknowledging the fact that he's had a genuine deficiency in his ability to play football over the past 2 weeks that has caused significant losses for the Patriots. That is further separating themselves from maintaining contendership in the AFC East.
Yeah. What
is playing? Found it. One of my tabs started yelling at me.
Gotcha. Do you have anything else you want to talk about that game, or just they got the shit kicked out of them?
Yeah, it was just there was nothing to talk about. They fucking 49ers defense was doing it. Their running game was doing it. Jimmy G did enough to not lose them the game.
One would say he did half as much to not lose them the game as the other team did.
Yeah.
I only threw 2 picks. You threw 4.
Nah.
All right. We could talk about the matchup of the undefeateds real quick, just because there's one fewer of them now. The Steelers beat the Titans 27-24, and we're back to this point where it's like, Pittsburgh's like maybe quietly the best team in the league, I guess.
Yeah, and especially after the fight that the Titans put up, because there was a pretty significant deficit early in the game. It was 24-7, I believe, and then the Titans, tightened up,
right.
And then it literally was. It all came down to a field goal, and Gostkowski missed the field goal. The Titans in the second half of that game did everything right. They locked down on defense. They turned up the juice on offense. Ryan Tannehill came out slanging. This was probably the most sloppy that I've seen the Steelers play all season. James Conner had to do a lot because, I mean, don't get me wrong, if you look at just the numbers, the passing game was still doing some things for the Steelers, but, Big Ben had 3 picks, and they were ugly. James Conner had to maintain he had to maintain tempo and consistency on that offense so they didn't start digging a hole for themselves in the second half of the game. And then it just came down to that kick, and he missed. It was one of those missed it by that much. Mm-hmm. And but it was a really entertaining game to watch. But it does kind of fit to your point, where although them winning was not directly, they were not directly responsible for their victory because Gostkowski missed a kick. They, in the face of adversity, was able to do just enough to keep the Titans in a field goal position and not a touchdown position.
Right.
And like you said, they could quietly be the best team in the league. They're not a highlight reel win football team.
Right. I mean,
their games have been close.
Big Ben threw for, under 270 with 2 touchdowns and 3 interceptions. That's not a stellar game. No. I mean, my quarterback throwing no touchdowns arguably had a better game than Big Ben did. Mm-hmm. And Baker this week, clearly blew this shit out of the water.
Right. And the only game that the Steelers have won in quote-unquote convincing fashion was against the Browns. So it's like, yeah, they're really good and they're finding ways to win. But they're not... I still don't think that the Steelers are on enough people's radar as far as being the best team in the AFC. We'll see as they get deeper into the schedule because they play the Ravens next week. They still have to play the Ravens twice. And
then never more.
And then they play you guys towards the end of the season. So
it's going to be a big game.
But not only are they quietly probably one of the better teams in the AFC, besides the 2 times they play the Ravens and then they play you guys, and then they play us, so we'll see if we can put it together at the last game of the season. The rest of their season's kind of cupcake. Mm-hmm. They play the Cowboys, the Jags, the Washington Footballers, the Bengals, and then the Colts.
Wow, yeah.
Yeah, so not only could they quietly be one of the better teams in the AFC, they also quietly got one of the easiest schedules in the AFC.
Or they've already gotten through the hard shit.
They've already gotten through the meat of the schedule. They've already played the Texans, who are kind of...
They're throwaway.
The Texans are a give or take kind of deal, but they've already beaten the Titans. If they have already played the Ravens, I'd be a little more sold on whether or not they are the AFC North team and they are the team in the AFC to beat.
Right.
But we'll see next week. It's literally next week is the team for the division. This is going to be the game for the division.
Yeah. I feel like that's kind of the same thing for the Bills next week. Mm-hmm. We've already beaten Miami once. We've already beaten the Jets twice. If we get one on the Patriots, we're 4-0 right now, and we can't lose more than we've won. So,
right.
We shall see. All right. Anything else? Anything else from Steelers Titans?
No.
All right. Let's move on. I just briefly want to touch on this because it's got the GOAT involved. But the Bucs beat the Raiders soundly.
Soundly is a good word for that. Tom Brady probably put up season numbers.
Yeah.
He was out there slanging that shit.
Tom Brady putting up Josh Allen numbers, so
no big deal.
It's all right.
Yeah.
But so I didn't watch this game, but from what I've heard tell, is the Buccaneers are starting to kind of find a middle ground between the Bruce Arians chuck it deep offense and what Brady is used to doing.
Which is a lot of motion at the line and really leaning into your check downs and your
But it seems to be working.
Mm-hmm.
And I just think that's kind of scary. Like, the one hope I held out was that the Buccaneers would just suck enough because the Arians offense is so complicated and it's super high risk and da-da-da-da-da. And I was hoping that would be enough to drag it down. But they're also getting Antonio Brown now. So
yeah, that was the thing I was gonna say, is like they're finally looking like they're putting it all together, and they're getting Antonio Brown.
So
it's really hard for me to be happy for that football team.
Fine.
Yep. Tom Brady on pace to throw 41 touchdowns this year.
One for every year old he is. Except I think he's 42.
And he's 43, so almost. Did you watch the late night game last night?
I did.
Yep.
Do you want to jump to that? I had one more before that, but
yeah, go for it.
What
you got?
I want to talk about Danny Dimes running 80 yards and falling on his fucking face.
Oh, I'm glad you brought that up because I also have a blunder that I want to talk about. But yes, Danny Dimes literally could have housed it.
How you run like a baby with his head too fucking heavy for the rest of his body?
He got tackled by the turf monster, man, and you could tell he was fucking pissed about it. Like, oh, also, why can Danny Dimes run that fucking fast?
Yo, Danny Dash.
Yeah, he was moving.
Fucking, that's freaky fast.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe it's tall.
Yeah, big boy.
So
he's got fast.
He's got to take less steps.
It's like a gazelle.
Yeah.
A big white gazelle.
Somebody asked me the other day if I'd ever imagine an elephant crossed with like a lion or something. I was like, no, I don't ever want to think about something that big moving that fast. Fuck you. Get out of my face with that.
Yeah, I don't. Negative. Not for me, dog.
It's not the musculature I want to have to consider.
Mm-hmm.
And that's sort of how I think about Danny Dimes. I don't want to think about how he moved 22 miles an hour, looking how he looks.
It's fucking gross.
You know,
similar blunder in the NFL. You see Todd Gurley losing the Falcons their game by accidentally scoring a touchdown.
No mas.
No mas. The Falcons had a perfect position to chew some time off the clock, and Todd Gurley accidentally stumbled and fell into the end zone on a rushing play.
Oh, also just real quick from the last game, since I guess we're done talking about it, the Eagles won and are now first in the terrible NFC East.
Yeah, they're first because of a tie.
Yeah, they are 2-4-1, and they're a half game ahead. Abolish the NFC East. I'm just saying. Yeah. Defund the NFC East.
Make them put them in the NCAA.
Seriously, bring. I'll take Ohio State, LSU, Clemson, and
Bama.
Alabama. Yeah.
Dude, that'd be a division. Hell yeah, bring it on. Yeah. So towards the end of the Falcons-Lions game, there's a minute left on the clock, and Todd Gurley, instead of he had a really good lane, and instead of surrendering himself at the 1 yard line so they could chew a fuck ton more clock before they took the lead, he just kind of fell down into the end zone barely, and which left a minute and a half on the clock for the Lions to fucking march on them and win the game. So once again, the Atlanta Falcons lose a winnable football game in some kind of horrifically funny fashion.
To quote the Bills from the last 15 years, snatching defeat from the jaws of victory.
Mm-hmm. And Todd Gurley's reaction was, I'm really mad, as you should be.
Yeah. It's you did this to yourself.
Yeah. Way to go, Turbo.
But yeah, let's talk about the Monday night game. No, let's talk about the Sunday night game.
Monday night game hasn't happened yet.
Shut up.
Yo,
it's Tuesday.
It was Tuesday, yeah, right. Yo, that was a fucking football game.
Yeah. So, the way that I was watching it froze 2 minutes into overtime, and I went, I bet I know how this ends, and went to bed. But yeah, I watched most of it, and you know what? I got a lot more respect for the Cardinals than I thought I needed to have.
Yeah, the Cardinals are legit. And Kyler Murray, although he's looked off at times this season, there's a lot of fucking talent there. That dude, he's hard to tackle. Like, watching him scramble out of the pocket is frustrating because he is the size of, like, a shifty back, you know? He's the size of, like, a Shady McCoy, and he runs the ball like one. So, like, every single time he rolled out of the pocket and started scrambling, like, anytime he had a lane and it was, like, 1 or 2 tacklers at the second level, it was automatic. Like, y'all ain't gonna get him. This is a first down. But then he was out there slinging it, man, and DeAndre Hopkins was being DeAndre Hopkins. It was a really fun game to watch. And once again, the Seahawks secondary is ass. Literal butts. Not saying the Cardinals defense was much better, because it was, once again, both teams combined put up 71 points.
Something I learned, however, do not ever try and snatch and grab DK Metcalf. He will catch you.
Yeah, he will. Yeah, it was fucking Buda Baker. I bet you he was pissed.
He will catch you.
Yeah, and DK Metcalf is fast. That dude's like the Terminator. Okay?
Yeah. Buda Baker ran a 4.45 at the combine.
Mm-hmm.
Buda Baker ain't slow.
He ain't slow. He got a good pick. He turned around, tried to take it upfield for the dub, and DK said, No.
I believe Buda came out and said, that's the first time I've ever been hawked like that in my life.
DK Metcalf's such a freak. Like,
he's just... It's one of those, you're just better. You're just better.
He is literally just better.
You're just faster.
Yeah, DK kind of had a quiet game. I think he, obviously, because he demands a lot of attention.
He certainly now he does. Didn't take him very long.
Nope, and because he demands a lot of attention, Tyler Lockett was able to have a 200-yard game and 3 touchdowns.
You remember that time that DK Metcalf fell all the way to the bottom of the second round because people thought he couldn't run routes?
Yeah.
Man, that was dumb.
And then there's people like me who, although I still had my questions about DK Metcalf, because he was a combine freak. He was a combine darling.
Oh, yeah.
But, like, we've had precedent in the league where, like, somebody is a fucking monster in the combine that is very raw and just never develops. It turns out when you're as much of a combine freak as DK, you don't need to run routes. You just run fast.
Yeah.
Like, if you can do a decent, like, head fake, or a decent double move and then run really fast, fuck routes. Like, just go to the empty spot in the zone.
Also helps when you're like 8 feet tall.
Yeah, you're 8 foot tall and you have, one of the more accurate quarterbacks in the league.
60-inch vertical.
He's a fucking monster.
Yeah.
I wish I saw more out of DK, but it's nice to see him demanding the respect, like getting the respect he deserves at this point. I questioned his viability in the NFL, but not for the same reasons that a lot of critics did, because, like, he reminds me a lot of, and I don't want to jump the gun and say this guy's going to be a Hall of Famer, but he reminds me a lot of Randy Moss, where Randy Moss was not a precise route runner. He was just better.
Mm-hmm.
That's why the term mossed happened. Like, if you underthrew him, that's fine. He's going to jump over your head and snatch it from you.
Yep.
Randy Moss was so good, not because he was so precise, but because his catch radius was insane, and that's kind of the same skill set DK Metcalf has. He's not the most precise and not the most, crisp route runner on the planet, but he is just physically better than everybody you put him up against.
Yep.
But it certainly didn't show in this game.
I would have drafted DK Metcalf.
Yeah, I would have taken it. He was on my fantasy team last year. Got me a lot of points.
Yeah. Oh, I believe it.
But ugly game from Russell Wilson, especially when they were playing. Man, both teams were playing so fast and loose. It was Russell Wilson threw 3 picks. Arizona probably had one. Like this, it could easily be the game of the year as far as the intensity of the game, like the comeback that Arizona had to put it into overtime, and then even the overtime antics, because both teams had an opportunity with the ball.
Mm-hmm.
Seahawks turned it over, which led to the Cardinals' opportunity, and they were able to capitalize with the field goal and take the win. Like it was like one of those it was one of those games that NFL Films is going to do a thing about.
Well, especially with just like how Kyler Murray and Russell Wilson have a lot of things in common.
Mm-hmm.
Kyler Murray hasn't quite secured the bag yet, but if he keeps going this route, he will.
And I also like what Arizona's doing because of the optic that it's providing for how Cliff Kingsbury imagines that offense. Because he's running almost a pure air raid system. Like, they're lining up 5 wide, 0 back sets on, like, 1st and 10, you know? And a lot of people last year, especially with their middling success last year, a lot of people were like, the NFL's not ready for air raid because it's such a simplistic system, because it's kind of a college-based offense. But we've had coaches like Andy Reid and Bruce Arians and like these offensive gurus incorporating, spread and air raid into their pro-style playbooks.
Oh, yeah.
Cliff Kingsbury is just taking it one step further, so to speak, and really capitalizing on what his quarterback's good at. And I think Arizona's performance this year is really vindicated Cliff Kingsbury as somebody that is capable enough to take a style that's so foreign to the NFL to traditional offensive styles in the NFL and really make it successful, especially so Cliff Kingsbury's stories always interest me because he was Patrick Mahomes' coach.
Right.
He's always been in Texas Tech. He's always been considered a quarterback guru, but he had a losing record in Texas Tech. And then he was hired as the offensive coordinator or like one of the assistant coaches for another power conference team in the NCAA because Texas Tech fired him. But then Arizona and the New York Jets called and was like, hey, we want to interview you for a coaching job, like a proper head coaching job in the NFL. Right. And then the higher-ups at the college he just got hired at said he wasn't allowed to. And he said quit his job, literally turned in his bag that he had just got handed and said, I'm going to go take a chance in the NFL. He's not only taking a chance in the NFL, he's taking a chance in the NFL with one of the most, probably one of the most abstract, physical, less than ideal physicality quarterbacks that we've seen in our lifetime, being Kyler Murray's 5'10". Some people argue 5'9.5".
Some argue 3'7".
Yeah, but also doing it with an offense that people scoffed at last year. So they still got some things to figure out. But I like what's happening in Arizona right now.
Going from an aging David Johnson, who's apparently been doing decently well in Houston, to Nuke Hopkins, that's going to help.
It's going to help a little bit, and some could argue that it's a certain amount of adjustment when Bruce Arians took over in Arizona, because that team was awful, because that offense was so weird, and then they went to the Super Bowl. So no big deal. I'm not saying Cliff Kingsbury is going to go to the Super Bowl, but they're doing good things in Arizona. And I like seeing Arizona do well. My family's from there, so go Cards.
Go Hot Shots.
Go Hot Shots. Let me go get my shirt.
We got anything else?
Adam, this is once again calling for Adam Gase to be fired.
Okay. Noted.
Yeah, we're going to say it every week. Condolences go out to Andy Dalton for literally being decapitated on a dirty hit. Because he slid. He obviously surrendered himself, and Washington defender, whose name I can't remember currently, dropped a shoulder and smashed him to where Andy Dalton was a pile of unconscious meat in the middle of the field. Very scary to watch. It was a brutal hit. Obviously, the dude got ejected. And then Ben DiNucci, or whatever his name is, had to come in and finish out the game because Andy Dalton's on concussion protocol, but he flew home with the team. Prognosis is positive, so speedy recovery to him. Ezekiel Elliott being benched did not last long, so he was back out there running the rock. But once again, that whole division, set it on fire and throw it away.
Do you think Dallas's continued failure and complete flaming out is going to secure the bag for Dak inadvertently? Do you think Dak broke his leg into a 9-figure contract?
I think so. I think I think Jerry Jones watching what's happening in Dallas right now and realizing the fact that the only reason Dallas was in football games was because of like soft zone defense and Dak Prescott. He might be coming out of that injury to a paycheck, which is contrary to our previous take.
You gonna fix my leg and my bank account?
Yep. But if Dak gets paid, good for him.
Continue to be mediocre, please.
Yeah, that whole division, just set it on fire and throw it away.
Telling you, Bama, Clemson, Ohio State,
LSU.
Give me it.
Make it happen. Then we can really figure out if the Browns can beat a college team.
Oof.
Bring up old scars from our 0-16 season. I mean, the Browns are basically LSU at this point, so it's fine.
There are worse teams to be.
Yeah.
All right. Anything else?
Oh, Ron Rivera had his final day of cancer treatment today.
Yay!
So that's cool. Happy for him. Go get him, Riverboat. You go smack them Cowboys around some more. Pete Carroll, maybe you should consider not standing on the sideline the entire game when you just had laparoscopic knee surgery, because he looked old.
Mm-hmm.
Get that man a stool or something next time.
Yeah, get him whatever. What's his name had in Detroit? He had his whole fucking like gator golf cart thing that he was
just up and down the sideline.
Yeah. Just listen. The Boogermobile's been decommissioned. Just take it to Seattle.
So I don't have anything else, but I'd like to close on a question for you.
Oh, sure. I love these.
Yeah. Do you think Antonio Brown should have a job in the NFL?
I mean, I think these legal proceedings are going to have a lot to say about that, and I think that's step one. I think if he's cleared of that, I wouldn't employ him, but, who am I to say who is and isn't allowed to play football?
Do you think maybe the teams that were looking at signing him should have maybe waited until all these stuff was, over?
I think that would have been a nobler move, but in the what have you done for me now business that is the NFL, somebody was going to jump on him, and he was probably going to take whatever was presented to him. So
yeah, because I mean, at the end of the day,
you got to also remember what else the NFL puts up with. So
sure, and this is more of a statement to the overarching issue in the NFL. So at the end of the day, none of the sexual assault stuff had ever gone to court yet, or is even going to go to court. That's still up in the air. But like the felonious battery and burglary charges did. He pled no contest, so he got a plea deal of community service and anger management and stuff like that. So, and then obviously the NFL closed its investigation because they wouldn't allow him to be signed by a team if they weren't done seeing all the things they needed to see. Here's my hope, okay? I don't mind second chances. I would have liked to see a little more follow-up on the sexual misconduct stuff, but that's not my place. It's up to the victims to do whatever they need to do. It's not my place. I don't mind second chances in the league. I was one of the guys, even though I found his actions to be very deplorable when it happened, when Michael Vick was released from prison and finished all of his stuff, I was one of the guys that advocated for his return in the NFL. And even though I do not condone anything that he did, and me personally, I wouldn't have been the GM that signed him. Similar stance that you take. So I tend to agree with that statement. I just when he's in the league though, I want to see the continued growth, Now, Antonio Brown doesn't got to prove anything to me.
Hell, I'd take stagnation from him at this point. Fuck continued growth. Let's not grow anymore. Yeah. You've grown a lot as a human. Maybe we prune some of those limbs,
Let's maybe whatever tree you have been growing, let's kill that tree, okay?
Whatever you decided to splice into this limb over here, it looks cancerous.
So once he clears the COVID hold time and passes all of his physicals and stuff like that, we'll see. We'll see if AB even still got it. You know, I think he does.
Oh, that's something we should probably talk about real quick.
What's that?
Well, do we have anything else to say on AB as far as that goes?
No, I was just curious about your perspective of him getting another chance with the team after already having other chances.
I think the fuck AB video that came out a couple days after he said he wasn't going to play for Buffalo is still largely where I stand. But, you know, it's fucking play your football. I hope you play poorly against us.
Yeah. Well, and according to you...
He's very entertaining. He's very entertaining.
Oh, absolutely.
He makes for great headlines.
At this point, you wouldn't want him to play in Buffalo anyway, so...
Yeah, not really. But speaking of other wide receivers coming back, did you see Dez Bryant is signed to the Ravens practice squad?
Yep.
Squad.
And
also, Yannick Ngakoue, no longer in Minnesota, traded also to the Ravens. So now they've got Calais Campbell and Yannick Ngakoue. And did the Ravens need help?
Yannick Ngakoue is butts. That's my hot take.
You think so?
I don't think Yannick Ngakoue is really as good as...
I think he's got like 5 sacks already this season.
They're all coverage sacks. They are all coverage sacks where the quarterback held onto the ball too long.
All right, fair enough.
So last week, and there's particularly one game that kind of elevates the point, is last week when they played the 49ers. Mm-hmm. They had issues on the offensive line with the tackle scenario because the 49ers were getting hurt. So George Kittle, tight end, lined up at right tackle on several plays against Giannis Ngakoue and made Giannis his bitch, okay? If a tight end can literally just out-technique you, you are all power, no skill, you're not good. You're a coverage sack cat. And which has its place on a football team. But sure. I don't think Giannis Ngakoue is going to be like that big of a contributor to the Ravens. Now, to answer your question, do I think they needed any more help? Fuck no. Absolutely not. Yeah, Giannis Ngakoue is still going to have his place on that team, but he is not a game-breaking pass rusher.
And again, Dez is on the practice squad.
Yeah, so, I mean, if somebody wants to be facetious, if he's unprotected, they can just sign him off the practice squad.
You can name 4 protected players a week.
I assume he's going to be protected. Probably. Like, every week.
So. Or called up twice.
But shit, you know, does Dez Bryant got it anymore? You know,
I mean,
31, been out of the league since.
As long as he still falls in the category of, I can be the best I ever was once. That might be all that the Ravens need. Yeah, I saw that. It's a good thing we're wrapping up.
Fuck you, AutoZoom. What are you doing? Autofocus. Hey.
AutoZoom the news.
Chill out.
Remember Auto-Tune the news? Remember when the world was simple?
When the world made sense. Is he officially on the practice squad though?
As far as I know,
because I haven't seen any article. Like I know he tried out. He worked out with them and stuff like that. But I think they were still under negotiations. I mean, that's the likely landing spot at this point. They're the only team that's showing genuine interest.
Oh, okay. Apparently, they have not signed him yet. If we sign him, we'll go from there. Gotcha. But he had a workout, I guess.
Yeah. I mean, that could be Dez's back into the NFL though, so not a bad choice.
I mean, shit, I'd take him in Buffalo. Like, fuck, teach Gabe Davis how to win all these jump balls for, you know, the next few games. Yeah, fucking, like, John Brown's hurt. Let's just get near the end zone and we'll put... fuck, Dawson, give him your number for this year. I know you've been wearing it, but give Dez 88.
I just want to watch Dez X him up on some people.
But, yeah. All right, if we've got nothing else... Okay.
I've got to believe it's a coconut.
Deedly-dee. All right. If we've got nothing else, this has been the Fourth and Wrong podcast for October 26, 2020. Say goodbye, Keith.
Tuesday. Goodbye, Keith.
Is the hee necessary?
Yes. Can't remember what that's from. What is that from? Found it. I remember what it's from.
Good dancing to a song that only you can hear.
It was the episode of South Park where they watch The Passion of the Christ and go to Mel Gibson's house to get a refund, and turns out he's a fucking insane person.
Uh-huh.
So he pops out of the closet, like they're trying to escape his mansion when he went all fucking wackadoodle Looney Tunes on him.
Uh-huh.
And he pops out of the closet wearing like a fucking like traditional like belly dancer get up, and he's sitting there with maracas going boom chicka boom hee hee. I knew I wasn't crazy.
Oh boy. No, that doesn't clear you. Just because you correctly remembered something doesn't make you not crazy.
That's fair.
Twerking at the car wash.
Oh, whoa, whoa, whoa.
All right. It is October the 26th.
Twerk that ass. I miss girl talk. Yeah, buddy.
Hey there, Mr.
Chevy
Blue.
tuned up like a NASCAR pit stop.
Yeah. No, all that shit is real good.
Yeah. All day is the shit.
Shit is a bop, just front to back. I'm still a bigger fan of like Feed the Animals, because it's a little bit heavier and a little more gangster.
Yeah. All day is definitely like
it's poppier.
like it's trying to be more popular, yeah, or trying. It is more popular.
Yes. All right. Yeah, the last time he put out music, he was like, I'm always trying to find the next way to give the user more with each album, like give the listener more. And it's like, well, dude, you went from charging to donations to putting your album out for free. So unless you're gonna like spot me a 20 and give me new music, like, yeah, right. I'll just take the new music, please.
Yeah.
But I think it's not that copyright stuff and strikes cost him a lot of money. I think it's just like the legitimate amount of red tape, if I remember properly, is why he stopped doing shit.
Yeah, because even with
he was like
even if he did release it for free,
Creative Commons.
Yeah, there's an argument to be made that the utilization of it, still infringes because he's perpetuating a brand or an image off of it and can sell merch off of it.
Right.
That's the same reason why Team 4-Star stopped doing DBZA or DBZA, is because although like now
ATM machine, yeah.
I don't understand if they understand what actual fair use law is, but because one could argue that DBZ abridged is not fair use. But even if it was, they're utilizing copyrighted material in order to perpetuate a brand, which helped their success for their merch line and their gaming channel and all this fun stuff off the backbone of copyrighted material. So it gets gray. It gets very gray.
Right.
But
this is a football podcast, god damn it.
Yeah, not no legal. This ain't no legal, god damn it.
I don't know how that's going to look at the end.